Welcome to Joe's Astrology, and we're looking at the Aquarius Sun and the life path of an Aquarius Sun to see how the life path works and how it can be a lot different than what the Sun in Aquarius is giving off. So let's get into it. Let's take a look at the chart. So here we have Ashton Kutcher, and Ashton Kutcher is a Sun, Moon, and Venus in Aquarius, and a Gemini rising. And he's an actor, he's a celebrity, he's a performer. How is an Aquarius a performer? Well, we're going to look at that here in this chart by looking at the life path. And when we look here at the soul, where the person's coming from, where they begin, at a soul level, he has Pluto in the 5th. And that would be the Leo house. And there we see the indicator of being a performer, being a creative artist, someone who seeks to express themselves in this life. And we see the node, the south node of the moon, is in the 11th in Aries at 6 degrees. And the north node, where he's headed, is there in that 5th house as well. So really with this north node and Pluto together, we see that in the 5th, this is where he's meant to be in this life. This is where he's headed. This is where he's coming from. This is where he's headed. He's staying here in the 5th house. This is a fruition type life where we can see things happening for him in this life. And typically when we look at the life path, we'll look at the polarity of Pluto to see the direction that the person is moving, the person is headed, and the north node. But in this chart, there is no polarity. And that's because the north node is with Pluto. Now the south node is in the position where the polarity point is, where Pluto is. So to me, this is really, which we're going to get into to see if this is true. It's indicating that there's, in this life, there's a lot of experience in where he's coming from and where he's headed. This angle, we could just say the 5th house, 11th house angle. Libra, Aries. There's a lot of activity there. So we'll come back to that. So how does Aquarius fit into this? So let's take a look here. We have Sun, Moon, and Venus in Aquarius in the 9th and 10th house. And we can see that the sun and the moon is in the Gemini decan. So that's the first thing that really stands out. And he also has that Gemini rising, which I'll come back to. It's just this idea of being able to put on different faces, being changeable. Even though Aquarius is a fixed sign, the air signs are inherently in these signs. And we see the 2 planets there are in that Gemini space of the Aquarius sign. And the ruler of his chart is Mercury. Even though it's in Aquarius, it is exalted in Aquarius. It's being the ruler of his chart. Mercury is a changeable planet. It likes to put on different faces and be different people. And the other thing we have to look at here is it is in the 9th here in a fortunate house. And the 9th can be, the house of someone who likes to learn, someone who travels. Certainly would come with being a celebrity, being an actor or an actress. We can see the money piece there with Venus on the 10th, and it's in that Libra decan where it rules. You can see it's in the 3rd decan of Aquarius. And I'm still trying to figure out as I'm doing this, to be honest. I don't know his life that well. I'm trying to figure out where would the Aquarius itself, without anything else, where does that come from? You could look at his movies. That's a potential way to look at that and see what kind of movies did he do. How his how he relates to these people. Is he a kind of guy that that he's friends with everyone? That he gets along with people? Does he have a? This might be something here. I can't remember, but I think he's involved in social activism of some sort, or he has been in the past. So that's something we can look at as well. And that would go along with this coming from the south node in the 11th. Because that would be this idea of social activism as well there in the 11th. And we can look at the ruler. The ruler of the south node is Mars. And it's in Cancer. And it's in the Pisces decan. So this could be a guy that he's coming from a place of care when it comes to that as well. Having that Mars in Cancer there at 25 degrees. Speaking of this Gemini air stuff, he does have Jupiter in the first house in Gemini. It's also making a trine back to these planets here in Aquarius. This Pluto's making a trine to these planets in Aquarius. The North Node, the ruler of the North Node is Venus. So we can see there'd be potentially some money in where he's headed here. And if he's spending time in this fifth house in his life, there will be some good fortune or some money involved. He does have Saturn in Leo as well. And it's in an angular house, the fourth house. He does have Neptune in the seventh in an angular house as well. So we see that Neptune is the higher octave of Venus, and it's the ruler of Pisces. So we do see a couple planets here that have to do with performing in really strong positions. Jupiter in the first, Neptune in the seventh. Actually has 4 planets in an angular house. Saturn there and Venus as well, but particularly this Neptune Jupiter, because he has so much Aquarius, which really doesn't, other than it's the polarity, it doesn't really have to do with it is the opposite, the complete opposite of Leo, the complete opposite of the fifth house. But I'm not sure if I really put that together as best as I would have liked to. But if you take what I've said so far and you really look back, you'll see that how this life path has to do with this fifth house and Leo more than anything else, even really more than this Aquarius stuff. See if there's anything else. He does have Jupiter squaring. Jupiter is making a loose square, 10-degree square to the node. And that would also indicate more that he has had spent some time coming into this life working with the 11th and the 5th and the Libra and Aries. I'm not going to get into his relationships. I definitely could if I knew more about them. I know a little bit. But I'm going to stick to more or less his career. And we see this Jupiter here. Like there's something to resolve here in the 11th. And it's almost like he's come into this space of acting for a reason. So that he could do something that he wanted to do in the 11th and wasn't able to do in the past. And we've seen that quite possibly could be true because the, something to do with Aquarius, something to do with social activism. I don't know if that's the right word, activism, but doing something for society, that by creating that name for himself, creating that fortune, he's able to come back and work with this now. That if he didn't do that, he wouldn't have the resources to do it. This isn't really a conscious process, by the way. I'm not sure that he did this consciously. This would be something that, especially with the South Node there, this might have been something kind of subconscious until maybe his first Saturn return, or until there were certain transits that made him aware that he wanted to do this. I'm not sure that he came into life thinking this. Or if you talk to him, he might mention that this is something that he always wanted to do, whatever that may be. So that is interesting. We can look at the ruler. The ruler of the 11th. Which is in Pisces. Could be Aries, depending on the chart. And the ruler here, Neptune in the 7th. So possibly this, again, comes back to some kind of partnership. Or contract, business relationship, or just relationship in general. That would have something to do with this social activism that he wanted to do. It's interesting. I know he did something with Mila Kunis. I know he did something with her recently, where they got something happened and they got involved. Some kind of volunteer work of some sort. It's interesting that he would have came back to her and now is in a relationship. I guess they're married. I don't know. Maybe they're married. I don't know. So I don't know if this is making sense, but I'm going to leave it there for now because I'm getting lost here. One more thing. That Mercury is making a trine to that node in the 5th as well. So I'll leave it there, and thanks for watching.